There have been news that there is a lawsuit challenging remote ID. Let's see what this is all about. Hello and welcome to LegalDrone, where we talk about drones and other tech stuff. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Before we begin, as always, this is not legal advice. So a few weeks back, I saw a news article about a lawsuit against the FAA, especially remote ID. And when I click on the news, well, it isn't a lawsuit per se. It is a petition to review the remote ID regulation. So this process is basically a process that is before the Appellate Court, and it is not before a district court. So it's basically, the two parties involved, petitioners and a respondent, they will file briefs and the court will decide ultimately whether the regulation is valid or not. So I want to divide this video into three major topics. First, I want to give you an overview about the process. Second, I want to give you a timeline, if you want to call it like that, and finally, what are the arguments that the petitioners have for this petition to review. So this is basically a petition to review, and it is filed pursuant the Administrative Procedure Act and Rule 15 of the Federal Rules of Appellate Procedure. So this is basically a case that is going to be basically all paper. Briefs are going to be filed, and we're going to have possibly a hearing to hear the arguments from both parties involved. But that is basically it. This isn't a lawsuit in district court where you have a massive discovery process that it could take years. So this process isn't like that. This is a more quick and efficient process, and I think it's going to be rather quickly that we're going to have this process. So now moving to the possible timeline. So the petition for review was filed, I believe it was March 14. So you have 30 days to certificate of the parties involved. So in one party you have the FAA, and so the other party is RaceDayQuads. So this is a company based in Florida that is challenging the remote ID regulation. So as for a timeline, parties, specifically the FAA, has until April 30th to file dispositive motions, and after that, parties have to file their briefs. So you will have the brief from RaceDayQuads, another brief from the FAA, and both parties will have their own time to file reply briefs. And after that, we will have oral arguments, and finally the decision of the court. So I think this decision is going to be rendered probably before the end of the year. I don't take cases at the DC District Appellate Court, but appellate courts tend to work rather fast than slow. So I think we will have a decision from this case probably before the end of the year. During the process, RaceDayQuads can file a motion to grant a stay for the regulations. So as you know, remote ID will take place in April 21st. I made a video about the delay of remote ID that you can click here. And basically, RaceDayQuad can file a motion to grant a stay so that remote ID doesn't take into place before a decision is rendered by the district court. So finally, I want to talk about a little bit about the arguments or possible arguments. So I've been saying this to a few people. I don't have a brief before me. I haven't read a brief about the case, so I don't know the legal arguments that they will use. So all I can do is comment on the news that have been coming. I think there are news that the FAA made ex parte communications, and before I continue, you can go to the description where I I have a link. I think Ross from 51 Drones interview the CEO of RaceDayQuads, so you can watch that video there and you can see what are the arguments that they're using. So basically, those ex parte communication, we know about them because a few people file Freedom of Information Act requests, and well, the FAA has to comply with those Freedom of Information Act requests, and that is the only way that we know that the FAA had ex parte communications with a few of the drone industry stakeholders. So that seems like a pretty strong argument, and basically that will be, well, you didn't follow the Administrative Procedure Act, therefore the regulation is invalid. You didn't give us a fair due process of law when approving this regulation. So that is, a pretty strong argument. There are other arguments, such as privacy, and that the regulation is made to kill the hobby. So they have few arguments. I think the strongest argument here is the due process one. So we live in a country where the Patriot Act is a actual law, and all the time that I've been studying law and practicing law, I have seen a lot of laws, state laws that have been approved, and there is always this concern about safety, and most of the time, almost every time, safety concerns outweighs privacy issues. So the court will have to make a decision there, a balance of interest, whether we have to give up our privacy for safety. So personally, I think remote ID is extremely intrusive to privacy. But giving you a legal argument about what I think it can happen, I don't think that those privacy issues will outweigh the call safety that the FAA will be raising. So I think the strongest case here is going to be that FAA, you didn't follow the Administrative Procedure Act, and because of that you didn't give us a fair due process. So yeah, they can invalidate the regulation. So we don't know what's going to happen. There is a huge spectrum of possible decisions that we can have. So I'm going to be following this case very closely because it's very interesting, and it affects all of us in the drone community. So we have to stay alert about what is going to happen. I'm also going to leave a link to the fundraiser, because they have fundraiser. I think I said this in one of my old videos, that litigation is expensive. So yes, if they want to succeed in this case, they will need money. It's simple as that. So if you really believe in the cause, so then you go ahead and give them a couple of bucks. So thank you for watching. That's all for today's video. Remember that if you want to see more drone law videos, you can click in the box here. So thank you for watching again, and see you next time.